sorry for the delay, folks. We're just having some technical difficulties. Switched over to another computer, which, as it turns out, I'm noticing does not have the font that I had on my other on my PowerPoint. So again, another reason to turn it into a PDF. You might see some funky things on this presentation, but hopefully it's not too distracting. But first of all, my name is Nell Hurley. I work at Adobe, program manager on the worldwide education team. And thanks for having me here. I'm excited you came, and it's a relatively small group, so definitely chime in, ask questions as we go along. But I'm going to talk a bit about the resources, education resources we have at Adobe. I'm on the team that works on curriculum, certification, professional development resources that we develop, or we partner with other organizations to develop. And I'm excited to share those with you and get your thoughts and feedback as well. So before I jump in, what we focus on most in higher education are three main areas. One being preparing future professionals, not surprisingly. Second, e-learning and collaboration, which we have our Connect and Presenter suite for that. And then the third being campus productivity, so mostly focused around Acrobat. The first, preparing future professionals, we sort of think about that as we think about the Creative Suite product.
Just 1 second.
Sure.
Not showing up to the other people. Try this again. So we are actions. Sorry, guys. Okay. And what we're going to do. Where's your, right here? Where is it going? What's up in there? It's not sharing on mine, but go ahead.
Okay. It's going to be rather ugly anyhow, so with the changed font, so it's okay that folks don't get to see it. So those are the three main areas that we think about when we are on the higher education team: preparing future professionals, e-learning, collaboration, and then the third being campus productivity. And so for each of those areas, we want to create as many resources as possible that educators and IT staff and folks can use to really make themselves effective in those areas, whichever are most important to them. So I'm going to first kick off our conversation talking about curriculum and the Adobe Education Exchange, and then go into the resources we have around professional development and training, and then finally talk a bit about our certification program. So these days when we talk about curriculum, we are talking primarily now about the Adobe Education Exchange. Okay. Don't be distracted by the as I am. So we launched the Education Exchange last year, about June, and this is now where all of the curriculum that Adobe has ever created, but then also that our customers and other users are creating and putting it into this great community. So the Adobe Education Exchange, what is it? So it's a central sort of community or location where folks can come meet, share, discuss, collaborate, talk about points of interest, really sort of innovate together. It is so it kind of spans across our customer base, so lots of higher ed folks in there, faculty and staff, and then of course K-12 teachers, and then curriculum, staff development specialists. I think we are at about 5,500 members, somewhere around there, and more than 1,500 resources have been posted. And I will go into depth and some examples around what what is there that you can find on the Exchange. But it's really exciting development for us, not because the idea of having one space is particularly innovative, but it's to be able to have one place just for everyone to come together. Because what we found is, we were creating in collaboration with a lot of our education leaders and industry leaders. We were creating curriculum that we were putting out, which we got feedback that was hugely valuable, and people were really accessing that from us. But we also knew from all of our discussions and conversations and meetings and customers and folks that would reach out to us that there's so much other great work happening out there that no one else had access to. It's kind of, it's the same with, across the board in teaching. But so we did want to create this space where that could happen. There could be some of that access and sharing, because certainly we're not the central location that should be creating this. I mean, we want the experts, the faculty, the teachers in the field to be creating it and sharing it. So that was sort of the reasoning behind starting something like this. So lots of great reasons to be a part of the community. The first two are fairly obvious, sharing ideas out and then going there to get ideas. Sometimes you have a great idea that you want to share, and sometimes you go blank and you need a great idea. So something definitely to share, get on, check it out, and then also share with your peers. There's obviously opportunities to connect and collaborate with people. You can have forums and ask questions of one another, find other fellow teachers and educators who are doing similar things, best practices, and just generally getting inspired, finding new ways to teach with Adobe products. So you might think that this would be a repository where there really is just lots of information on digital media and art. I think that's a natural connection for Adobe, of course, but we also want to emphasize that we're covering all sorts of subject areas, and we really encourage lots of different folks to come on, sort of on the cross-curricular, across the board. So we would love to see resources on business and law and math and administration and teaching and all sorts of things, because we know that there are lots of different ways to use our products. So you'll find the majority in digital arts and media and growing in other areas as well. So we cross subject areas and then crossing resource types. So you're not just going to find a list of syllabi on here. You're going to find lesson plans, tutorials, various different project assets, maybe just a quick idea that someone had, or various different project examples and presentations and different types of things. And I'll go into some of these examples in just a moment, but just want to give a quick overview of what types of things, and you can really get in depth here.
You'll be providing the link for that.
The link for the Adobe Education Exchange, yes. Is that from the?
That's from the chat area.
Yeah. So I'm on that page right now. You can see it's simple. It's edexchange.adobe.com. So http:// did you get it? Perfect.
In this view, you go here first or you go here first? You go to math, for example, or science, and then you find the menu here for you?
Oh, this is just a listing of what's available on there. This is, if you can see this, if you go to the main page, you sort of get some most recent posts, things that have been put on there. You'll find active members, and then you can have your own network, so you can sort of build a group of folks that are maybe particularly in your field, or other people on the site that you collaborate with a lot. You can sort of ask them to be your friends or in your network. Subject areas, and then across you have lots of options up here across the toolbar as well. So collaborating, finding a resource, posting a resource. So yeah, this next page is just simply a listing for presentation purposes of what all the different types of things you might be able to find on there. So in terms of just some examples, I mentioned that Adobe would create some curriculum previously. You may have accessed that. I should preface all of this with free. It's all accessible. The exchange is free. You sign on, and you get tons of resources there. So the digital careers curriculum is something that we created, again, in collaboration with educators that we work with regularly, and then also industry contacts as well. These are actually year-long courses, so they can be taught as an entire course, or they can be broken out and parsed up and take different projects from it, but they're really project-based. There's all sorts of good stuff in there. Student materials included, so worksheets, concept guides, technical guides. So this is all located on the Exchange. Visual design, talking about Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, different types of projects that are located in there. So again, I mentioned you could teach it as a course, and in print production or graphic design using Adobe tools. But you can pull out and say, oh, I want to teach my students how to make a brochure or a newsletter or something like that. Digital design, sorry about the font. It's similar things. So if you're teaching a web design and production course using Fireworks, Dreamweaver, Flash, building a website, designing a client website, etc. And then finally, there's a video course as well using Premiere Pro. So news stories, public service announcements, different types of commercials. Again, these are all kind of hefty, lots of good stuff in there. Various assets, technical guides, things that can be used. And this, again, I want to emphasize, is all up on the Exchange. So like I said, something like a newsletters project, pulling out, just sort of highlighting that, there's different types of skills that you would be teaching this, of course. So, the softer skills, students taking on editor roles or photographer and doing that project management. And then, of course, meanwhile, the technical skills as well. So editing images, laying out in the format. And commercials is a similar idea. This is an example of a post that was, of a resource that was posted by a member of the Adobe Exchange. So Tom Green from Humber College, getting to grips with alpha channel video using After Effects, CS4 in this case. And I won't go into details of the description because it's even beyond me. Maybe it's not beyond all of you, but. So just gives you a quick glimpse into what types of things are on there. And then another, a game programming course using Flash and ActionScript posted by professor at UNC Chapel Hill. And this one's great too. I read through a bit of this to share the syllabus and the whole course plan. So lots of good meaty stuff on there. The Exchange also has a good chunk of video resources, so music videos, commercials, documentaries. These types of projects, these are the types of things that you'll find on the Exchange. So there's a whole section set up there for video projects and video production. And then similar with regenerative applications. And various teaching resources, how-to videos, very different project ideas using Flash Builder, Flash Catalyst. And then I mentioned earlier, so I mentioned the three main areas that we're looking at. So all those things are really along the sort of preparing future professionals idea. So getting folks ready for the work world using primarily Creative Suite products. And I mentioned about campus productivity. So this is where you'll find lots of resources on the Exchange around Acrobat. So creating e-portfolios with your students, administrative productivity, so streamlining various tasks using Acrobat, and then digital assessment as well. Again, all posted there. And some of these, again, are created, that we've created in the past with our group of education leaders, the Adobe Education Leaders program that we've had in place for some time, and we rely on them a lot for creating some of this content and collaborating with us. And so some of the things that I'm talking about here are created in conjunction with them, and then some, again, are posted by other educators in the field. And then e-learning and collaboration as well. So, you know, how can you extend your classroom outside of the actual classroom? Different sort of best practices and technical resources for using, in our case, Adobe Connect. Collaborating with other folks and how to support the virtual classroom. So, of course, little plug to go ahead and join and come find us online and take a look and kind of explore on your own. That's always the best way to really get involved. But you register again for free, share your resources, grab a resource, share it with your peers if this is not exactly what you're teaching or if it's not the field that you're in exactly. Definitely encourage you to share that link. Again, it's just edexchange.adobe.com. And it's still growing. Again, I said it started about 6 months ago, maybe a little bit more. And so we're definitely open to feedback and what other types of things would be useful in this type of community. Before I head on to professional development and certification, that was sort of a chunk of information that I just threw it all to. Are there questions about the exchange and anything from the
How are they peer reviewed? Peer review process?
There's a rating process.
So it's an ongoing rating?
Yeah. I want to say stars, but
yeah,
it could be other something like that. Yeah. And then you can comment on things. So I've seen, you know, certainly posts and that people have tried out different things and, you know, provided their own suggestions or different ways that they've done it. So that's fun to see for sure.
You have a link from adobe.com to this education.
Yes, if you go to adobe.com and you go to sort of the education page, if you find industries, I think is the chunk, and you find education, you'll be able to get to the education exchange. But fastest, easiest is edexchange.adobe.com. Okay, so for professional development and training, this is going to be a quick piece because it's one of our newer areas that we're just sort of delving into. Of course, there's tons of training opportunities out there on Adobe products, books, classes, you know, training centers, all sorts of ways that you can get information and sort of product training. But what we realize is that we want to be much more education specific, both for the K-12 and higher education audiences. So both in terms of content, but then also pricing. So we want to work with partners, folks who are already doing this and doing it really well, to be able to have offerings for our customers that make sense in education. Because sometimes certainly what's out there now is enough, but in other cases there's need for much more in the education context. So what we're aiming to do, and it is a new program, we really want to grow training opportunities specifically for faculty and students, focusing on faculty first and foremost. So right now we have two main offerings. We have curriculum integrated workshops that are focused around Creative Suite, and we partner with an organization called Knowledge Network Solutions. And they've been doing curriculum integration, project-based workshops for years and years, and they've really developed a set of, excellent workshops that are totally hands-on and fantastic for folks who are just getting started with the software, but need to see it in the context of their day-to-day work, which makes sense. And then the other is product training through Total Training, and this is an offer that we've developed at very low prices for, what we think are low prices for the education audience. So I mentioned a bit about K&S and the workshops there. So really about integration. So the workshop is inspiring environmental action with Adobe Creative Suite, but it could have been any type of topic. It could have been a language arts topic, or it could have been a math topic. But we chose a life sciences type topic, to really delve into different types of projects that you could do with students using the Creative Suite, whether it's design, suite, web, or video. So this is, they're delivered by fellow teachers and educators, 2-day workshops. They come to your location. So we're excited about these, and we've gotten absolutely positive reviews. I think we've delivered 25 to 30 workshops so far in the 2 months that we've had this program, and they've come back with rave reviews because I think people really appreciate really diving in and getting hands-on. And then, whoa, that one's messy. Online training is really about, we just need some product knowledge. We have Adobe, but we just can't quite get started. So we want to, get some of the basics, and maybe you know a bit more, but you need to brush up on the new versions, so there's different ways to purchase, and you can. We've developed sort of user packs for education, so you can offer this to your department or even potentially a set of students. So maybe you want to provide this as a prerequisite to starting a course, for example. So take the Photoshop Basics course in Total Training, and you provide license codes to Total Training, and that could be a use case for that as well. But there's tons and tons of content in there, and I think we've found it really meets most people's needs when they're looking for just straight product training and education. And then a free resource that we have is Adobe TV. If you haven't checked out Adobe TV, this is on the website as well. Fantastic place to go for lots of inspirational content, so lots of examples and things that students have done. But we have a channel specifically for students and educators. Again, educate, inspire, and entertain. So this isn't where you're going to get your total training type knowledge. You're not going to go in depth to specific features, but lots of how-to sort of tips and tricks, or if there's a new fun feature that will be highlighted in this channel. So I definitely recommend kind of, if you're new to Adobe and you're trying to get a sense of how it would fit into your context, then this could be a good place to go just to start to get a feel for what some students and educators are doing. And then I'll jump to talk about certification, and I'll be able to leave some time for questions as well. So we started a certification program on the education team about 2 to 3 years ago to address what we thought was sort of a gap in Adobe's overall certification. We have an expert level certification, so for someone who's been in the working with Adobe products every day professionally for 5 to 7 years, I think is sort of the benchmark. But there was no sort of entry-level, kind of basic skills type of certification that we thought would be hugely valuable to, a huge set of our audience. So we started the Adobe Certified Associate program, and this again is our entry-level skills exam, sort of testing and validating skills around communications with different types of media. And what I like about these exams is that it's not straight product knowledge, and instead it's sort of communications using Flash or Dreamweaver or Photoshop. So there are questions, of course, that are product specific, but then other questions about planning out a project or working with a client, or those types of things that you would also need to be job ready using Adobe products. So in the higher education space, it's primarily used as sort of a benchmark or a prerequisite. So a teacher or a faculty member might say they don't want to worry about what level that all of their students are coming in on necessarily, or they're going to worry about that, of course, but they want to sort of eliminate some of that, and they can say, okay, everyone get the Photoshop ACA, and they know at least the base level of knowledge that all their students are at. So that's a potential use for the ACA in higher education. And it sort of helps the folks eliminate that, teaching actual product in the class unless you have a specific class on Photoshop, and that could then be almost like an assessment midway through, end of the way through, etc. So this program is actually really growing quite a bit for us. We've had more than 100,000 exams taken in the couple of years that the program's been in effect. And a fair amount of recognition globally as well. So in the UK, it's being aligned to, I'm going to forget the organization's name, but the testing bodies there. And then in Taiwan as well, the Ministry of Ed has recognized it as a qualified, assessment for these types of skills. So that I think is exciting not only for those regions, but also for students here in North America who potentially want to transfer their skills to other places. And they have this credential that says, Adobe certified, and they know what that means. So it really is a global program, and it's continuing to grow both here and abroad. And we're seeing also some early cases of sort of articulation between high schools and the community colleges in those areas. So in Florida, in particular, the ACA is completely taken off. We've gotten tons of schools, of high schools, excited about this and using it more as a end of unit, end of semester, kind of end of high school assessment. And they're using that as articulating it to sort of the career college, community college space, and getting some credit for their students, early credit for their students for that. So that's been exciting as well, and we're interested to see where that goes. Any questions from the?
Is there a cost associated with the certification?
Yes. So there's two ways that you can take the certification. I'll talk a bit about the classroom license at the end, but there is also, you can just purchase one test. You can take a test, or you can purchase 10 vouchers for tests. We partner with an organization called Certiport. They are the actual that's the exchange would go through Certiport, not directly through Adobe. But you can purchase those vouchers, individual test vouchers, and take it at a testing center in your area. But one thing that we found that schools and school districts and universities are really grabbing onto is this idea of the classroom license. And so I'll talk a bit about that in a moment. So lots of text here, but the main point being that one example of a career college in Canada, being a career college, of course, they want their students to be ready to go into industry and go into the workforce, but they found that they weren't making that connection, or they were sort of losing that connection. So they, brought industry folks in. They sort of developed an advisory board of students and faculty in industry, and ultimately came to the conclusion that something like an ACA would be a really solid and important credential for their students to have. And given that we created the ACA with industry in mind, and we're always looking at it and sort of changing it and adjusting it as needed to fit what sort of both objectives that students are looking and faculty are looking to achieve, but then also for industry. They picked up the ACA, and then also used the Adobe curriculum. So if you remember several slides back, the digital careers curriculum, visual, web, and video, those all actually have objectives that align to the ACA. So you could use that curriculum and be preparing your students for these tests. And so they used that and then had great success with transferring those skills to the workforce. And just sort of anecdotally, local employers talked about how important it was and how impressed they were with the students having the ACA Adobe credential. And then secondarily, at community college in Mississippi, actually, they knew they wanted something like the ACA. They wanted that credential for their students and to be able to offer that. But they had an issue of budgeting. How do we get this to our students? How do we offer this? So they use this classroom license that I'll share with you in a bit, and that proved to be hugely popular with the students to have the exam, and it was really easy for them to to purchase that one license one time, one annual fee, and then be able to offer the exam at unlimited basis for the classes. So they had almost double enrollment in digital media and technology courses from one year to the next, or one semester to the next, which was huge for them. And they're continuing it and want to continue that classroom license option. So you might be wondering, what is the ACA and what tests do they have? So right now we offer 4 exams: visual, communication, web, rich media, communication, and video, which align respectively to Photoshop, Dreamweaver, Flash, and Premiere Pro. Actually just launched a couple of months ago, so we're excited about that. So that one we just have in CS5. But unlike our products, we don't retire any of the exams. So we realize that a lot of schools are still on CS3 and CS4. So those exams are still available to in the system and to purchase and as a part of the classroom license as well.
I have a question from the virtual. They want to know, do they find that small communities are recognizing the credential, or is it more well known in larger cities or communities?
I think that I don't know the sort of difference in terms of big city versus smaller communities. We haven't done that type of breakdown, but I will say that I think Adobe is on maybe 92% of computers across the world, so we certainly have a strong name in the industry, and for that reason it's recognized, and it's Adobe creates the objectives for the exam, decides what, working with industry and working with, students and faculty to create the exams that there is that level of credibility behind it. So I wouldn't imagine that there would be much difference between, a small community and a bigger city. But that's an interesting question, for sure.
Adobe Premiere is audio and video, or just video?
Premiere is video.
Is it something like Final Cut Pro and Avid, or different?
Yes.
Same.
Yep. Those would be Premiere's competitors. Yeah. Exactly. Any other certification questions? So, quickly just talking a bit about what certification and what that process would be. So obviously, teaching students in line with the objectives of this type of certification. There's lots of different ways that you can access that type of courseware. I have a list for you, and then there's practice exams, and then obviously certifying, and ultimately getting to the certified associate credential. And there's also a certified educator credential that kind of demonstrates that you have taken the certified associate exam and that you also have a certain number of years of teaching experience. So if that's something of interest, that's also something that you can delve into. But speaking about preparation, so I mentioned that the digital careers curriculum that we provide on the Education Exchange has mapping documents that align to the objectives for the FIT 4 ACA exams. There's also study guides that we provide on the website for free. Sort of Prep is a certification practice exam that Certiport creates, and that's included if you buy that classroom license. And then in general, we're working with partners. We have a partner called TeachPit or Adobe Press, under the Adobe Press label, excuse me, that creates training specifically aligned to the ACA. So it just essentially means that a third party organization has kind of certified that this courseware is approved for those certifications. So we would love to see more and more partners publishing around that, just so that there's lots of options out there for students and teachers. Of course.
I've seen in the bookstores, recently in the last maybe 6 months or a year, the video training series. Is there a place at Adobe that you can go and actually see or sample some of what the video looks like that we'd be doing?
Yeah, there is actually on Adobe TV. There are samples of the Learn by Video. So I believe that they've posted sort of a 2-minute kind of promotional thing, but then there's also some accompanying videos that are snippets of kind of key things that you would learn in that Learn by Video.
Are they done by Lynda.com?
No, these are TeachBit, and they're based in Berkeley actually, but TeachBit and Adobe have a partnership.
So people that are, like there's a series of people that do Photoshop, like Rick Harrington,
yeah,
Scott Kelly.
Yeah. So you're familiar with all the Lynda content?
I subscribe to them.
Okay. I don't remember who the narrators are specifically for the different the different videos. So these I'm just showing the 3 that align to these 3 exams. Flash, Dreamweaver, Photoshop, but they have a whole series. They have Premiere, they have so they have tons of them. And
So you go to TeachBit then?
if you want to just check out, you can either go to TeachBit, I think, which is just teachbit.com, or you could go to Adobe TV, which is tv.adobe.com, or you can just adobe.com and find it. And they have some snippets of the video. But we've gotten really fantastic reviews on these. Not we being Adobe, but TeachBit has, they've found that people are really happy with this type of training. Because it's the video, and then you also get a book with it, and you kind of practice along, and people have found that it's really helpful. I think they're each about 20 hours. So. And then I promised I would talk a bit about the classroom license, which has been really, really popular for our education customers. So again, you could purchase one by one and try and think about, okay, how many students do I think I want to take the exam this semester? Maybe they won't be ready, whatever it is. Or you can purchase this classroom license, which is a 1-year subscription to access to all of those exams that I listed before. Kind of simplifies budgeting, expands it to all students versus having to sort of pick who you think might be ready for the exam. And then I think exciting for a lot of colleges and universities is that this could ultimately be a profit center for you. So you buy the license for whatever the dollar amount is, and you can charge your students to take those exams, and then that could be a little bit of income for your group or your organization. I mentioned that all the Adobe versions are included, and then you also get lots of resources. So you have the Adobe curriculum, of course, but then you get sort of practice tests and all sorts of things that go along with that. So we found that people are really happy with this idea because, in terms of having to submit for the dollars and find out, how many students, and it just makes sort of logistical sense and budgeting sense for most folks. So it's a one-time fee, and then the idea of potentially making that into a profit center, if you're set up for that, is also exciting for folks. So,
just a little clarification, does 30 feet, so basically 30 tests then, or?
No, unlimited tests. It means that this would be a lab with 30, like 30 computers, and this would be a bigger lab, up to 60. But in terms of the number of test downloads, it's as many as students would want. So, you might have students in your class that want to take it, but even some more sort of unconventional, non-digital media arts folks might be interested in picking up that credential as well, and then you can offer that to the whole student body versus just keeping it within your individual classes or whatever it is. So
if you have 3 sections, just hypothetically, they come into different times on the same lab. We use the same 30 seats, and supposedly that the 90 students will get an exam.
Yes. Yeah. But you can do that, you know, if they don't pass it, they can brush up again and come back and try and take it again if they'd like. And that's still within that license. So you just have a lot more flexibility in terms of numbers of students and time. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Well, I'm glad you asked questions throughout. I'm going to stay up here if you have any specific questions, but we did make it to the last